the article really starts with an assumption or with an investigation of how do you come to Torah. Okay? What is your motivation for being an observant Jew? Okay, now, if you think about this, it really starts with the self. People say, I'm frum because I believe in God or whatever, but the fact is that, why do you believe in God? What really is the motivation for you to believe in God? I hear people give arguments. Is this argument for Sinai and that argument for Sinai? Is that really what convinced you to believe in Torah? Because I'll tell you, if with a lot of people, they buy an argument, so, oh wow, it's a really good argument. If it was an argument they really didn't want to hear, they'd go find an argument against it. So I might have mentioned before, there was a story of a guy who became frum, and he bought this argument for the proof of Sinai. And he was so adamant about that, he then went on to go for a master's in Talmud. He was going to study Talmud at the university, and so forth, so forth. Then he wanted to go for a PhD. And his PhD, they sort of told him, listen, can't get a PhD in Talmud if you ever took a course in biblical criticism. So he was at Columbia, so he said, okay. So he said, okay, I'm going to take a course in biblical criticism. I'm going to take a summer course in biblical criticism just to fulfill my requirements, because I all recognize it's all shtus. It's all stupid. Right? Because he learned the truth of Torah and all the arguments for Torah Sinai. Okay? Now, I want to be clear about this. When I say this, obviously I'm a person who believes in Torah Sinai, so obviously I think that there are arguments, and more sophisticated arguments, and arguments that challenge, and so forth and so forth. But he learned the simple arguments, and he never learned the other side. Never heard the other side. So what happens? He goes into biblical criticism course, just to sort of finish it with this Nourishkeit, and a month later he drops everything. Totally non-religious. Why? Because he didn't recognize the argument against him. He was taught, oh, this is so simple, and this is so straightforward, and this is so intelligent, and there's no argument against it. And then when he went out to see what it was, he says, hey, these guys aren't idiots. They actually have some arguments. He never learned in terms of understanding the full weight of the arguments, the full intensity of the arguments. The truth is that I, for example, and I'm not saying I went intensely into these things, I was always interested in hearing the argument to the other side. What exactly is the argument? And then, once I hear the argument, I say, oh, that's interesting. However, there's obviously this challenge. I have this challenge. The fact is you don't just take things willy-nilly so fast. Why do you take things so nilly? Why is it all these people buy Torah Messina so fast? Right? You really think it's because they've come to this intelligent, conclusion. This is the truth, and I'm bound to the truth regardless of what I feel? No. The truth is most people are observant, become interested in being observant because it meets a personal desire. There's a personal desire. There's some benefit personally. Either they like the family, they like the spirituality, they like the nationalism, they like Shabbos. The fact is that in many ways, Kirov, outreach, is a marketing tool. You show people a product and you get them to like it. And they like it. They dance and they sing and enjoy it, so forth and so forth. They like it, and then they're thrown into learning with some intellectual challenges and so on. They all like it. And then they say, hey, gee whiz, I like the spirituality. I like this. What they like is they maybe like things that are good. Nothing wrong with liking things that are good. Okay? Okay, Alex writes, it's also wishful thinking, if you can call it, that they must believe that there is a God and there is a life after death. The truth is that, hey, it comes with the package. If you're enjoying Shabbos, enjoying this, it comes with the package. It's a God, and hey, that's a nice thing, especially if you define God in such a way that it's, a nice old man in with a long white beard who takes care of everyone. And a life after death, hey, that sounds great, life after death. The point is that you're right. The point is though we do know that there are people who are orthopractic, who observe mitzvot, but even though they don't believe in the theology behind it. And that has a lot to do with the fact that they like it. Most Jews, most observant Jews, like it. Nothing wrong with that. They like it. They like being frum. Yeah, there's a few inconveniences. You know, sometimes they can say it's a problem, so forth and so forth. Some limitations, but generally, the lifestyle's okay. Lifestyle's not so bad, right? Okay. So, okay. So Alex asks, why did I like it? Because that's their personality. That's really their personality. And different people have different inroads. The truth of the matter is, when you ask that question, why did they like it? The truth is, if you see the various different forms of Orthodox Judaism, in many ways, it reflects the different personalities. There are people who like a little bit more spirituality. There are people who like nationalism. A lot of people like nationalism, so they go off to Eretz Yisrael and become very strong nationalists and from nationalists over there, and they're involved in nationalism. Other people are involved in like the family aspect. Okay, there's a whole variety of reasons why someone likes what they like. Whole variety of reasons. Okay, and therefore there's different forms of Judaism that sort of meet these different feelings of people for what they do. Okay? Now this seems a little bit cynical, you might say. Right? Well, okay, I'm being a little bit cynical. What is that sound? My printer is going crazy over here. I don't know what that sound is. Oh boy. Okay, one second, let's see. I don't know why my printer is making these sounds all of a sudden. Sorry about that. Anyways, but the fact is people like what they like. Okay? Okay, and they find some satisfaction in a different form of Judaism. You have some people being like this and some people like that. Some people like the intellectual challenge and so forth and so forth. Now, this may seem a little bit, heretical to many of you, right? Many of you say, like, well, okay, Alex is talking about my printer, maybe it's facing a crisis of faith. Yeah, it's hearing all this heresy over here. No, the truth is, it may seem a little bit heretical. I mean, I'm sort of dumb, but I say, yeah, anyone is into their Judaism because they like it. It's good for you. It's this one, it's that one. So, they like it, and there's people there who don't like it, so they're not going to be frum. That's what it sounds like I'm saying. Fact is what I'm trying to get across here is a certain structure, a certain motif. See, if people like it, then how do you know whether you're doing it for God or you're doing it for yourself? How do you know if it's really a mitzvah, that you're doing it for the right thing? Okay? Now, Alex says that yes, they like it because they accept certain underlying concepts of it. Yes, but which comes first? Did they accept the concepts and then liked it? Or did they like it and therefore they accepted the concepts? I'm willing to say the other way around. I'm willing to say, at first at least, people become interested in Orthodoxy. They really they really like it, and then they develop, and then they accept the concepts because it goes with the way they want to live. Okay. Alex says is basically he doesn't get the people who are observant, don't really believe in anything. The truth is that you're talking about a specific subgroup. There are some people, orthopractic is the term that's used for them, who say point blank that they're following Orthodoxy but don't really believe in it. they like it so much, they like the lifestyle so much that they're following it, and they're passing it on to their kids, teaching their kids even that which they don't believe in, because they feel it's important for this lifestyle to continue. Alex says they're fools, but this is the idea. But I'm defining another group. I'm defining that there are many people that they believe in it. But is it that you believed in it first and then they did these actions? Or is it that they did these actions, liked it, and therefore accept the belief? I think many people they found some benefit in being observant, right? There were pros and cons. There were some costs, Yeah, I had to give up Big Macs, but I got Shabbos instead, and the day of rest and stuff. But the fact is that was their sort of thing. But then eventually, because they liked it and they wanted to buy it, they were basically in line with saying, hey, I'm going to believe it. And I don't think this person sits around and says, yeah, I like it, I'm going to believe it. I think once a person gets involved in a lifestyle and so forth, okay, they basically buy into it. Now, Alex says, I think it much depends on whether they're from birth or Bali Tshuva, but the point is you're right, different procedures. But the fact is that we have to recognize that in observance, aside from the theology of observance, God gave mitzvahs and so forth, in observance there's also the reality of how human beings relate to the observance. And the fact is that in many ways, for a variety of reasons, maybe like is too simple a term, but there is a satisfaction in being observant. Even if it's an idea that they want to have meaning in their life. Whatever it is, they have a drive. And that drive is somehow satisfied through this observance. And once they have the satisfaction of this drive, it leads them to therefore say, I will buy the theology that supports this behavior. Okay? So if you're coming out, and you give example about Tshuva and so forth, but person of Baal Tshuva, he's into Shabbos and so forth, really finds Shabbos enjoyable and wonderful and so forth and so forth, and eventually he's going to start believing that, hey, God gave it. Because that will further support his involvement in Shabbos. Okay. Now, is that necessarily problematic? No. I mean, the truth is if you believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the creator, then it should not be surprising that a behavior that he directs you to do may have some benefit. So the fact that you find value in observance is not necessarily a problem on a certain theological level, because you can argue that, well, it makes sense that the Creator would direct you in a lifestyle that you would find beneficial. Okay, but then you get into the issue: are you doing it because it's beneficial? Are you doing it because it's a tzivui, it's a command from God? And there's a lot more. I mean, I'm just dealing with this on the surface, a lot further depth and so forth and so forth. Okay, and the fact is that in certain perceptions, I would think that I'd say in Chabad theology, they would expect people to like it, because they'll say the neshama is telling you that this is good. Okay, so therefore, if someone is feeling Shabbos, it's because your neshama feels it, and therefore you're being told therefore your feeling it's good is actually your neshama being in line with the Shabbos behavior. So the fact is just because a person likes Torah, not a problem. It's very nice. Theologically, you can understand it as as having values and so forth and so forth. Okay. But there is that fundamental issue. Are you doing it because it satisfies something in you, or are you doing it because God told you to do it? even if you're sort of saying, well, I wouldn't fast in Yom Kippur, I don't really enjoy fasting Yom Kippur, I'm doing it, obviously God told him to do it. No, the point is you're fasting Yom Kippur because you want to identify as a Jew, because you like the spirituality of it. It's a whole package. And the package has its give and takes as well. So the point is the fact you fast in Yom Kippur does not really make an absolute statement that you've actually investigated and came to a conclusion, this is the truth and that's why I'm fasting Yom Kippur. The point is it still can be that perception. Okay? That's the starting point of the wall. That's where this article comes from. The article comes with the realization that there is a motivation for people to observe mitzvot, and that motivation is not necessarily a negative. Okay? Okay? So Alex asks the question, and he's asking the other side, are there really cases where it's purely the latter, where the only reason you do it is because God told you to do it? Is that how the human mind works? And that's an excellent question, Alex. The fact is that that's a very, very difficult madrega. If you want to say it's a madrega, the fact is, as I mentioned to you, the fact is that if you look at the human being being programmed to like what God tells him to do, then the human mind, you can't really call the human mind totally objective that way. In that way, the point is that if you're going to say that the only reason to do it is because God told you want to make darn sure God told you to do it. So the point is that there's a lot of factors involved in this. How do you know God told you to do it, and so forth and so forth? The truth is, though, is that in a certain way, that was a concept at Har Sinai. The Gemara in Shabbos, when it talks about Hoifeleim Har Kagigas, that God raised a mountain over the Jewish people and said, okay, accept the Torah, or Shem Tiach Rasa, or that's the end of everything. The point is, in a certain way, and there's a lot of issues that the Jewish people accepted it out of their own desire, and Nasev and Nishma, and so forth and so forth. Nasev and Nishma basically saying we want it, and so forth and so forth. But there is a concept of doing it because God told you to do it. Period. And that seems to be part of this basic attitude in Torah. That seems to be an element in Torah. But ever since Sinai, okay, without clear-cut miracles, how can you be absolutely 100% certain that God told you to do this? So the point is there's questions of belief. Well, how do you know you can touch your belief and trust your belief and so forth and so on? You're right. There's a lot of questions about having that level. And even so, yes, how the human mind works, people basically argue that the bottom line, the human mind is not so rational. You know, human beings work with their emotions, work with their will. Seem to be talking from the arguments of the rationalists in philosophy. One of the things about philosophy is that philosophy tells you about humanity. You know, when you look at philosophy as trying to understand metaphysics in the world, I sort of roll my eyes, because I see philosophy as being limited because it doesn't have Torah. But philosophy of telling me how human beings think and what goes on with human beings and how they make decisions, that's tremendous. That also leads to psychology. And the fact is you have all these issues. Is rational? Is there rationalism? Is there will? Is there emotions? You know. And the fact is human being. And even if you want to say the rational, the truth of the matter is that you even have arguments against the rational. Okay. And classic example from the Catholic faith, where they actually say, because it doesn't make any sense, that's why I believe it. So you have a lot of games with this type of analysis. But the bottom line is that if you don't do it because you believe 100% God told you to do it, and basically God's telling you to do something that you otherwise would not do, that's a much purer aspect of saying, and God told me to do it. I think I mentioned to you guys that the Rambam actually points out that he says that the reason Mila, circumcision, is a sign of the covenant of the brit, okay, is because the only reason a rational person would do this to their son, would actually cut their son, is because God told him to do it. Because what rational person would do this if God didn't tell him to do it? So the truth is, the bris is really a sign of belief, because it really shows, hey, listen, I don't want to do this, and I would not do. I'm actually doing something. And the truth is, that leads into issues. I mean, then on the other hand, you look at brisim today. Everyone's doing brisim, and it's sort of like everyone was doing brisim or whatever. But the fact is, it became Jewish nationalism, and now there's medical reasons, stuff like that. But the fact is the Vilna Gaon is noted for saying that it's a lot harder to eat properly on Erev Yom Kippur than to fast on Yom Kippur, because eating properly on Erev Yom Kippur, you want to eat anyways. But to eat with the right intentions Erev Yom Kippur, to fulfill God's will and do the mitzvah and stuff like that, it's much more difficult because you want to do it anyways. Yom Kippur, what person is right man would do Yom Kippur? Okay, it must be because God told you to do it. But as I point out to many people nowadays, it's sort of like might be because I want to show myself my Jewishness. Okay. Okay. Now, Stewart makes a point. Would you say supernatural, rational commands are more important than mitzvahs we can understand rationally? No, I wouldn't say that, but I can say that is something that comes out of it, in the sense that a lot of times people say that it's a lot easier to show your commitment to Torah by the fact you keep kosher than to show your commitment to Torah by the fact that you're an honest businessman, because there's a lot of people out there who are honest businessmen that don't believe in Torah anyways. So the fact you're an honest businessman doesn't really show that you're following Torah, that you're committed to Torah. I mean, that uniquely committed to Torah. But if you keep in kosher, it shows you're uniquely committed to Torah. That's why some people say it's the attraction of the quote unquote ritual mitzvahs to get to that situation. But the truth is there's another side to that. The fact of the matter is that's why I like the word important. A lot of times people, if they're driven by nationalism, the reason they like the ritual mitzvot is because it shows they're a Jew. I like wearing my kippah I like doing this because that shows I'm Jewish. So if I'm kosher and Jewish. If I'm honest, that doesn't distinguish me as a Jew. A lot of it, and also there's the aspect of spirituality. The fact is, people can get into spirituality by what I find a lot of people, the reason they like mystical ideas is because that gives them a bigger dose of spirituality. So it's not so simple. A person may be driven for that. One of the things about mysticism or spirituality is the fact that it tells you to do something that is not rational. That's how you get your kick out of it. So there's a lot of different sides to this. But all I'm trying to point out. And by the way, part of it could be the mind, the fact that Torah is so intelligent and so intellectual. So the point is that you're attracted to the intelligence, you're attracted to the genius. Fact is we're all human beings, we all have our attraction. My form of Torah, my form of Judaism is obviously colored by the kind of person I am. And I clearly believe that my understandings of Torah believe them to be the emes and so forth and so forth, but I also recognize that inherently those things which I will be attracted to are things that go in line with my personality. Okay. What am I getting to? So all I'm saying is that it seems to be that that a lot of Torah is basically following what you like. Okay? Now, the truth is in a certain way, we can sit there and say, as those people who don't like it, well, that's why they're not following Torah. But just the way I like it, it's a matter of taste, which is the way a lot of people like to think in terms of religion. Right? Like, people say, well, I'm religious. Well, a person who's religious means he likes doing religious things. That guy over there who has no interest in religious things, obviously he's not going to be involved in religion. But one of the things I do believe is that Torah has a place for everyone. And the fact is that the reason you have Shivim Panim LeTorah, you have 70 faces to Torah, is because, and really the word 70 just means, a finite infinity is really what 70 means. It means that but what it says is really that there are different paths of Torah for different human beings. And people can find their own method to find fulfillment in Torah. And Torah will be different for different people. Okay? And that comes from this idea. But the point is still that point. So what is it? Just following what you like and so forth? It just happens to be you like it and it's going to connect. Where does it come that it really becomes part of a tzivui? That you really confront God and recognize, I'm doing, obviously it has benefits to me, obviously, but there's a key aspect to it that I do it because God tells me to do it. And that's really what I try to deal with in the wall. And I point out that no matter how you try and find Torah, how you come to Torah, you read through the article, different people have different ways to come to Torah. This person finds it this finds that. Comes to a point, exactly a point, where a person confronts the wall. And it's when they confront the wall that they really confront Torah. Now, what is the wall? Have you guys read the article, by the way? I told you guys read the article. So, anyone read the article? Okay. Good. So, Alex, you know what is the wall then? Okay, you don't have to type it in, Alex. I'll tell people. So basically what I'm saying is this. That whatever way you are attracted to Torah, you will eventually come onto something within Torah which will challenge that motivation. And what is the first example of that? Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu was a Baal Chesed. His being was being a Baal Chesed. His whole essence was Chesed. And what he saw in Torah was a manifestation of understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, understanding of God, understanding of life, that reflected this attitude of Chesed. So the truth is what he was accomplishing, what he was accepting with God, was basically in line with his personality. That's really what happens. Like Avraham, he finds God, he thinks about God, and I do believe it wasn't just I like it, therefore I'm going to, but he really worked it out philosophically. I mean, according to Rambam, the greatest of philosophers was Avraham Avinu. The fact is, he came to this conclusion of God, but his conclusion was in line with his personality. It was in line. He was a person who was Baal Chesed, and God is the Tova Meitiv, is good and the giver of good. It connects with Avram. There's no conflict. It flows. It's exactly what Avram would expect, and it flows along and so forth. So, does he have some questions? Yeah, he has some questions. At Stom, Mishpat. Will the God of the world not do justice? So, okay. So Kodesh Baruch Hu explains it to him. Yeah. So Avraham said, I understand, it's kind of sad, but this is just, okay? So he understood, okay, there's justice, chesed, there's absolute justice, and so forth, so forth. But then Avraham has two events in his life that challenge his very motivation for God, for Torah. The first is being told to send off Yishmael. His own child, he had to send off to the wilderness, which is completely opposite from a Baal Chesed. A Baal Chesed, someone who's so caring, and to strangers for sure would care about his son, send him off. But in that case over there, Avram is not sure about this. He says no to Sarah first, but Kodesh Baruch Hu explains it to him. There was another side to the coin. Yeah, first of all, Yishmael will be taken care of. Kodesh Baruch Hu says, don't worry, we'll take care of Yishmael. But there's another side to the coin. Yishmael was not a good influence on Yitzchak. So while it was challenging in terms of chesed to Yishmael to send it away, it was a chesed to Yitzchak to send Yishmael away. So Avram, everything fits in. Makes sense. Then Avram confronts his wall. What's his wall? His wall is the Akedah. And the Akedah, the binding of Yitzchak, was not just simply God telling him to do something. It was not just that. It was not just God saying, hey, I'm telling you to do something you don't want to do. It's a fact that Avram had a whole understanding of God. and the essence of God. Mahu Racham Chesed. The fact is Chesed and Rachamim are part of the human understanding of God. I won't say the essence of God, but it's called us. In terms of us, this is who God is. It's a Tov Meitiv. And all of a sudden, Avram, where everything fits in, and it sort of fits in his understanding of God and his own personality, all of a sudden he confronts this event where it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. His very motivation for being involved with Torah, for being involved with God, which is obviously reinforced by his reality of being of confronting a Kodesh Baruch Hu and knowing a Kodesh Baruch Hu and the miracles that surrounded him. But it was all makes sense. All of a sudden he confronts God, and his very personal connection there is totally challenged. And that's Avram's wall. The very thing that motivates me to relate to God, to connect with God, I'm now running into the fact that I am being told that the connection with God will challenge that very motivation. That's really what's going on. It's like a person, let's say, I'll give you an example. It's like a person who feels that Torah will bring him a certain level of spirituality and a sense of connection with God and spirituality. And all of a sudden he finds out that God is saying, no, don't be spiritual here. No, I don't want any of your spirituality. In fact, I want you not to be spiritual. Or a person is strongly nationalistic. Torah is the Jewish people. So God's saying, no, now don't be involved with the Jewish people. It's like the very thing that I'm being motivated, that has driven me to connect, to get to this point, is now being challenged. Like I'm driving this car, and I'm going well along this car. Now I'm told, I'm sorry, that car will get out of that car. That car's no good anymore. So where do I go now? That's the wall. That's really what the wall is about. That which drives you to Judaism, that which drives you to Torah, eventually in the world of Torah you will get to a place where you're told, don't fulfill that drive. The very drive that you're driving to bring you this way, now you're being told, don't fulfill that drive. You think about this, it's unbelievable. It's like whatever. A person is successful. He's in business, successful. This is his drive that he's been successful. All of a sudden he's being told, okay, now if you want to move to the next level of success, don't follow that drive. Do the opposite. Well, but this is the way I went. It's almost like the Chinese finger torture. You know, it's like. You know, usually you pull apart and separate. All of a sudden, with that Chinese finger test, you know what I'm talking about? You pull, it gets tighter. So you say, well, this is the way I work to get out of situations, and all of a sudden, that which I use to get out of situations now it's getting me into this situation. That's the challenge of the wall. Yeah. Alex says, I didn't know it was called Chinese torture. I think that's what it's called, the finger thing. Okay. But you see what I'm getting at? You know, see what I'm getting at? The conflict, the challenge, that which you take along to go for the ride and puts you and takes you further and takes you further. Avram Avinu, Chesed. This is when all of a sudden he confronts this reality that this Chesed is being challenged. Stay away from that which you drove to get to this point. The Torah is now saying, don't do that, which is the essence. And you know something? That's the wall. And that's the wall we all have to encounter. Okay? Yes, it's the wall we all have to encounter, because the Torah will inherently force you to encounter this. Because when you encounter the wall, that's when you really encounter Kodesh Baruch Hu. Because up until that point in time, it's great, and so forth and so forth. Everything's in line. You and God in line. Everything's going well. I want this. I like this. At this point in time, that's when you really have to encounter the fact that God is saying something apart from yourself. And your first reaction to it is going to be, no, I don't buy it. First, you're going to ask questions. And the truth is, there's some legitimacy to asking those questions. Because your knowledge of Torah will bring you about to asking those questions. There's Midrashim by Avram Avinu, for example, that say that Sarah was very upset with Avram for not asking any questions. There's a Medrash that says Sarah was very, very upset with Avram when she found out what Avram was doing. She says, I don't get it. For those blankety blanks in Stom, he starts yelling, Asher b'kol haaretz yaseh mishpat, God, you can't do this, and so he gave a whole fight. For his son, the tzaddik Yitzchak, Kodesh Baruch Hu says, go kill him. Avram doesn't open his mouth. What? Challenge him. So the truth is Sarah says he should have challenged him. Now, a lot of times we say Avram's greatness didn't challenge him, but there's more fortune to say that after the fact Avram did challenge him, and that was part of it. But the truth is challenging is also some way of dealing with the wall. See, the wall isn't saying, hey, this is it, I'm going to do it. And the wall is that confrontation, and one of the ways of confronting is with the question. See, one of the ways you relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not just simply saying, okay, I'm going to do. One of those ways of relating is by saying, hey, gee, I understand the struggle of thought, because those things which attracted me to Torah, which are part of my essence, are also good. The truth is that the wall is not just a sword where you sit there and say, I confront the wall and I just have to do the thing. The wall is confronted because it leads to your thought. It makes you actually confront God. That confronting may conclude with you having to do an action which you may have problems with, but the fact is before you even get to the level of the action is the confrontation in thought. And in many ways, it's that confrontation in the front that takes you into a new perspective of Torah. See, it's the confrontation. It's not the conclusion of the confrontation, it's the confrontation. It's how you relate to that confrontation. The wall is in that confrontation. And the wall is in the fact that there is a position outside of you which you have to now relate to. And that's what transforms your Yiddishkeit, your Judaism, out of just a personal, method of fulfillment, but becomes an intellectual concept, a sophisticated concept that takes you into a new realm of understanding because of the questions that are involved with it. It may be that in the conclusion it's not so much the action. You see, in the end, Avram was not Makrav Yitzchak. In the end, Avram does not do it, but the fact is the confrontation already happened when he had to challenge himself with these things. Can you imagine Avram Avinu in those 3 days going to the Akedah? Can you imagine the emotions? Here he is going to be Makrav his son, the one son, but can you imagine what's going on in his mind? I don't get this. Kodesh Baruch Hu promised me that my through Yitzchak will be my progeny, and it's very important for me to have progeny. I believe I'm going to spread God's knowledge in the world, and it's a good thing to spread God's knowledge in the world. It's part of my destiny to be the father of the nation that's going to spread this knowledge of the world. And it's good, and so forth and so forth. And here he is on the way of I'm going to be Makrav him. I mean, can you imagine what's going through his mind in those 3 days on those way to the Akedah? It's not just the fact that he did it because he believed that the Kodesh Baruch Hu told him to do it. That itself is a madrega that's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable madrega. Avraham Avinu, basically, that's unbelievable. But the truth is that in that challenge of his mind, and his ideas and his concepts and so forth, that's where Torah is really understood. That's where Torah is really understood. And that was Avram's wall. All that led him to this point was now being confronted. And he didn't just let it go. He confronted it. He thought through it. He challenged with it. He worked it out. And he still did what he thought was the right thing to do. As much as it challenges the whole idea. And you really think about this, Avram, about the Akedah. Imagine, he was spreading the idea of a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He was spreading the idea of chesed and caring, and he had his open tent where everyone came into, and basically what he's doing is saying, listen, this is God. God is about chesed, and so forth and so forth. Next thing you know, right, here he is going to do what all the pagans were doing around him. Right, that just to show the power of the idol, and Lahavdil, it's totally, this is not what I understand God. But to really understand this, you have to understand and be honest with who you are. A lot of times people run away from who they are. They think, hey, no, I'm doing it because it's Torah, and recognize it. You like it. You're doing what you like. Now, think about it. There's someone over there who's not doing it this way. You see, the law can be like, it could be, how you relate to other people within Torah. Elu ve'elu is a very aspect of the wall. Very easy to say, this is the right way, and this is it, and so forth and so forth. But there's that person who's not doing it your way. Who's doing it in a way that you really find problematic. Do you confront it and say, he has his arguments to back him up? Man, I just understand this and work through it. That person over there, he doesn't get up and sing and dance on Shabbos. And I think it's such significant. And yet he has a Torah, he has a way of doing Torah where he doesn't sing and dance. So how do I relate to him? How do I understand the Torah that can have both types within Torah? All these type of questions, where you bring yourself into it and recognize that you yourself have a part in this, and then you confront outside of yourself, that's when you confront the wall, and that's when your Torah transforms. Okay, so I'm going to listen to see if anyone wants to comment on this. No comments? No comments? No comments? Okay. So, I'm going to, I start off the, oh, okay, yeah, I know, I lost the sound because I was trying to see if anyone wanted to make a comment. Okay. I told you guys last week, so we're going to go on, okay? Okay, I told you we have 2 articles we're working on. So I gave you one article from the Nishma journal. So larger article. Tree of Knowledge Part 3. So I hope you guys are looking at that article, and we're going to get to that.